Good morning or good afternoon. I'm going to jump right into it. I'm here to talk to you about the age-old question, could one of every Pokemon beat 1 billion lions in a fight? It's a pretty simple question. Some would say too simple. Actually, I think the vague definition of it is what prompts the interest. So I think that just as it's asked, most people tend to just think about them all squaring up in real life and facing off, which is very hard to imagine, by the way. 1 billion is a very big number. I don't really know what that would look like. It would be like a thronging mass of lions. It would be disturbing, I think. But I think if you were to square them all up in just a free-for-all fight in the real world, I don't think it's particularly hard to come up with the answer. Pokemon are magical creatures to begin with, and some of them are like gods or aliens or mythological beasts. They would find a way to win pretty easily. I mean, even normal Pokemon, there's one that's like hotter than the sun. What did Google think I was searching there, by the way? Anyway, I think under that definition, it's pretty easy that the Pokemon would win. So I was kind of thinking, what if they fought in a Pokemon battle? I mean, for all the talk about how Pokemon are gods or whatever, the highest of the high and the lowest of the rats can be pecked to death by a bird in the Pokemon world. So instead, I'm going to say, if it was a trainer Pokemon battle, like you just had a billion lions and one of every Pokemon, all facing off against each other, who would win within the rules of the Pokemon world? Ironically, having this take place in the Pokemon world with Pokemon rules makes it a lot harder for the Pokemon. Immediately, 1 billion is a very big number. Pokemon don't have an infinite number of moves. They can only do each of their moves a set number of times, for which they have power points, or PP. And once they run out, Pokemon are reduced to using a move called Struggle, which damages themselves. If you take all Pokemon and you add up all the total number of moves they have, even if you were to do things like enhance the number of power points they had available to them, they would not get anywhere close to 1 billion. So even if every single Pokemon was able to kill one lion with every single one of its moves, there would still be lions left over. So that's our first problem. A billion traffic cones would give Pokemon a problem for this reason, okay? Line them up. They don't even have to do anything. So the first thing we need to do is find a way of restoring power points, giving ourselves infinite ones. And just if you're thinking off the top of your head that that's not the only thing to do, maybe it isn't. If at any point in the video I say something and you think that you have a very strong reasoning for why that's wrong or there's an alternate solution, please leave a comment in the video. It's important to try to bait engagement, even if you make one video every year and exclusively post it as an unlisted link in various Discord servers. That's the type of content creator I am, but doesn't stop me from doing the things I see other people do. But as far as I can tell, we really are going to need to find a way to restore power points. I don't see a different way of stretching this out. I looked into stuff like entry hazards, 3v3 battles, trying to do anything you can to stretch it out, and there's just not enough juice in the squeeze. We need to restore power points, and as far as I can tell, the best way to do this is with a Leppa Berry. A Leppa Berry is an item that can be held by a Pokemon before the battle begins, and when the Pokemon runs out of power points on one of its moves, it immediately eats the Leppa Berry, restoring 10 power points for that move. On its own, this only gives us 10 additional power points, but Leppa Berries can be regenerated by a few methods. For example, Snorlax has a move called Recycle, which will allow it to restore a berry it's previously eaten. And an ability called Harvest allows Pokemon to regenerate berries that they've already eaten. So with either of these ways to regenerate berries, we can beat our 1 billion traffic cones. But the lions aren't just going to sit there and do nothing. They're going to do things on their own. They're not traffic cones. They're not even Magikarp. We're going to need to account for that as well. Okay, so in Pokemon Showdown, which is the simulator I'm using for this, it's the Pokemon battle system I'm using to test these games, I need to create a lion Pokemon. And I figured the best way to do this would be find a normal type Pokemon that, because I figure a lion would be a normal type, right? It really exists in real life and you can't get more normal than that, right? So I figure find a normal type Pokemon that has the appearance and vibes of a lion and assign it some moves that a lion would have. I picked Persian, which is a big cat. and it's a normal type. Persian has the ability to learn psychic moves and all this, but I'm just going to give it the moves Bite, Scratch, Growl, and Roar. I think these are a very good set of moves to go with the line. They're just all moves that I think seemed like something a line would do when I looked at the move list. There's other things that a line could technically do. I mean, who's to say a line couldn't leer at you? But these are the moves I picked. And it was actually pretty interesting because they posed an interesting set of challenges. Let's take a moment to talk about these moves. Scratch just deals damage. It's pretty straightforward. Bite deals damage but also has a chance to make its target flinch. Growl lowers the target's attack stat, and Roar switches the target out for a randomly chosen other Pokemon on that team. For a single lion, this isn't too hard to deal with, but this brings us to our second problem, which is 1 billion is still a very large number. The damage from those scratches and bites are going to add up, and if you get hit with enough growls, you'll barely be doing any damage yourself. Even worse, 1 billion is such a large number that anything that has a chance to go wrong probably will. So, Bite has a 30% chance of making its target flinch. Realistically, we could be flinching 10 times back to back if we don't do anything about that. Now, Growl can be countered by not using physical attacks. Physical attacks use the attack stat, which is what Growl lowers, but special attacks use the special attack stat, which is not lowered by Growl. So, if we just use special attacks, we don't have to worry about Growl at all. The damage from Bite and Scratch, and also the flinching of Bite, can be countered in an even more straightforward way. We just make sure we move first every time, and we kill with every blow we land. That way we don't have to worry about taking damage, and we don't have to worry about flinching, because we only flinch if we move after Bite lands. And this isn't even that complicated to do. In competitive Pokemon terms, what we're trying to do is set up a sweeper, a Pokemon that is strong enough on its own to take out every single Pokemon on the opposing team, in this case 1 billion lions. There are a number of different ways to set up a sweeper in Pokemon, and, we have our pick of the litter since we have one of every Pokemon to choose from, but the typical way of doing this is a Pokemon that uses the move Baton Pass, and a couple of other moves that increase a stat. In our case, we'll need to increase speed so we can attack first, special attacks so that our attacks can kill in one hit, and potentially defense. That last one's not super important, so if we only use one Baton Passer, we'll just be increasing special attack and speed. After this, we'll end up with a Pokemon that moves very quickly and hits very hard, but the only problem is that we've given the lions Roar. Now, Roar is a strong counter to a sweeper setup because it switches the Pokemon out, and the replacement Pokemon doesn't get the benefits of any of the increased stats that we have. So basically, we need to find a way to counter Roar, and it is not easy to do so. There's a few different ways you can stop Roar temporarily, which will help us do our Baton Pass. For example, Mr. Mime is soundproof, and Roar doesn't affect soundproof Pokemon, so Mr. Mime could increase a couple of stats before doing a Baton Pass. And you can also use moves like Encore or Taunt to keep the lion from using Roar for 3 moves. If you put a lion to sleep, that'll prevent it from using Roar, but it's a little bit harder to predict when the lion's going to wake up. But none of these things are really going to help us sweep through the full 1 billion lion. For this, we're going to use the move Ingrain, which prevents us from switching out under any circumstances. We can't even intentionally switch out, and also heals us every turn. This is very good for us. It's the perfect counter not only to Roar, but the billion lions themselves, since it'll give us lots of longevity, and we don't have to do anything to re-up it. There aren't that many Pokemon who can use Ingrain, and thankfully Executor is one of them. This is the first time I'm really drilling down into a specific Pokemon we're going to use for this run, because Executor? I feel like it's supposed to be Executor, right? Like I feel like the origin, it's execute, like execute, and then execute. So you'd think it's Executor, not like executor, like some type of legal thing. I guess an executor is a legal thing. Anyway, this is good because Executor is also one of the very few Pokemon who can use Harvest, which we've already established is one of the 2 ways we can restore power points. So Executor is going to be our sweeper Pokemon. It is going to kill 1 billion lions. And we're going to need also a Baton Pass Pokemon, which I'm going to use Ambipom. So the way we're going to do this is going to go something like this. Ambipom's going to come in and taunt every now and again while building up special attack and speed. Then Ambipom's going to Baton Pass off to Executor. Executor is going to use Ingrain, which will hold for the duration of the fight, Then it's going to alternate between using Giga Drain. Well, it's going to use Giga Drain until it runs out of power points, and then when it runs out of power points, it'll use Sunny Day, which will turn the 50% chance of a harvest happening to a 100% chance. Remember that if something can go wrong, it will, so the 50% chance on its own means we will eventually run out of power points, even though we have a way to restore power points, just because 1 billion is such a large number. But we don't have to worry about that because we have another move slot for Sunny Day. So we're going to use Sunny Day under those circumstances, Giga Drain when we're not in those situations, and that's going to get us through 1 billion lions. So that's it. Every Pokemon ever can defeat 1 billion lions in combat, in a Pokemon combat. You really only need 2. It's Ambipom and Executor. It's a monkey in a tree. Well, okay. There's just one more problem, and it's not a serious problem, but I feel I should address it. So, okay, Pokemon have abilities, right? Like Harvest is an ability. That's not a move that we use. That's just something that's true about the Pokemon. It has the ability to restore berries under these circumstances. So every Pokemon has an ability that it has, or maybe 2 abilities that we randomly choose which one it'll have. But every Pokemon also has a hidden ability that it doesn't normally have. A Pokemon in the wild won't have its hidden ability, but through certain means, your Pokemon can have its hidden ability. Harvest is a hidden ability. Executor, in our case, only has Harvest because we're using the hidden ability. Pokemon in the wild, by default, don't use their hidden abilities, so our lions probably don't use their hidden abilities. It's questionable if a lion has an ability at all. Persians, by default, have the ability Technician, but they do have a hidden ability called unnerve, and unnerve prevents its opponent from eating berries. This is devastating to us. It prevents our strategy from working if even a few of these Persians have their hidden ability unnerve. Now again, under ordinary circumstances, wild Pokemon don't have hidden abilities, and it's questionable if a lion even has an ability at all, like being that it's not a Pokemon. But, just for fun, I prepared for this situation as well. You see, we have one more slot for Executor. One move Executor. Jeez, man. One slot that we haven't used yet. I'm going to put Worry Seed here. Worry Seed changes the opposing Pokemon's ability to Insomnia, I think. And I'm not looking it up. I'm just freestyling this right now. That's right. I have a pretty good understanding of which Pokemon have which abilities, so I'm just going to guess that Worry Seed changes the opposing Pokemon's ability to Insomnia. It doesn't really matter what it changes it to. What's important is that it changes it from Unnerve, which allows us to eat a berry. So now, it's the same flow as before. These are all moves, except if we get in a situation where we need to eat a berry and we're against a person who has Unnerve, we're going to use Worry Seed. And that'll get us out of that situation. There we go. I think I've explained everything. With the Giga Drain that we're using to suck the life of the lions, this is going to restore our health that we also have in Grain, and I'm not really too worried about taking attacks in the meantime. The only thing, and if we decided that we really were, we could introduce Mr. Mime into our play and have Mr. Mime do the soundproof defense baton pass thing I said earlier, which would also give us a little more runway with Ambipom, a little cleaner. But I really wanted to make a video that said, I really wanted to make a video that had a thumbnail that goes something like this, like 1 billion. Can you defeat? I want the headline of the video. Look, okay, I'm pitching you. You're at the very end of this video, and I want to pitch to you what the start of the experience looks like. I wanted to make a video that the title was, "Can one of every Pokemon beat 1 billion lions?" And I wanted the thumbnail to be like, yes, just 2 actually, and a picture of Ambipom and Executor, maybe the Alolan version, because I think the idea that, yeah, it's just a monkey in a tree does just fine is pretty funny.